Hi and welcome to my sixth YouTube video tutorial on how to use Business Objects Web Intelligence. And today I'll be showing you how to manually create comparatives like the one you see here on your screen: year to date, prior year to date, current month and prior month. And also I'll show you how to create variance variables in Web Intelligence. I am going to start off by creating a new report based on the Island Resort Marketing universe. And for my variables I will select resort, invoice date, and as my measure I will select revenue. For a filter I will select invoice date and I will select between. And for my first date I will select 1104, and my second one will be a prompt, and I'll be calling my prompt statement date colon. Gonna run my query and it will prompt me to select my second date, and I will enter 7306. Hit run query. And I will firstly get rid of all this stuff, and I'll be dragging in resort. The next thing we're going to do is somehow capture the information you entered here in your prompt and store that in a variable. And we're going to use that variable as the basis for our comparative calculations. So we're going to create a new variable called vUserResponse. And I'm going to use the user response function. User response. And in order to capture the prompt, we need to enter the name of the prompt, which is in our case called statement date colon. And I made a typo there. Okay, see if it works. Sometimes it doesn't work the first time, like now, and you just simply refresh your report and it should populate your user response variable like you see here. The information entered in the prompt, and that feeds through to the vUserResponse variable, is of a data type called string. But in order to create our comparatives, we need to do date manipulations. So we're going to use different date functions, and the first thing we will need to do then is to convert our user response to a date. So we do that by creating a new variable, and we're going to call it vStatement date, and that equals the user response variable, and then we're going to use a function called toDate, which converts a string function to a date type. Okay, and see if this works. Now that we've got the statement date converted to an actual date data type, we can use our date functions. So I'm gonna create a new variable called vStatement year. That equals statement date, and we're going to convert it to a year by applying the following function. Okay, and see if it works again. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a month instead of a year. And we're going to replace year by month. And that will give us the month of the user response. And we get here the month name. I'm interested in the month number because we're going to use it in calculations. So I'm going to change this to month number of year. and now we've got a month number. Okay, so we've got everything we need from the user response side. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to apply some date functions based on the actual invoice date. So I'm going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call it VREV year, and the formula will be year of the invoice date. And that will convert my invoice date to a year. Next thing, I'm going to convert the invoice date to a month, so I can duplicate this variable I just created, and I'm going to call it VREV month, and I'm going to replace this again to month number of year. Okay, so now we've got everything in place to calculate our comparatives. So that will be the next thing we're going to do. I will delete the all these test columns here, and I'm going to insert a new column, and I'm going to call this year-to-date revenue. That will be our first comparative. And I will select my revenue, drag my revenue in here, and delete this row. And so in order to create a revenue, I am going to apply a where clause, where revenue year equals the statement year, that's the year of the statement date, and revenue month is less than or equal to statement month, and this should give our year-to-date revenue. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do prior year-to-date. So I'm going to insert a new column to the right, I'm going to give it the name prior year-to-date, and let me convert this to a variable, and you can quickly do that by clicking the create variable button, and I'm going to call this year-to-date rev. So in order to do our prior year-to-date, I can simply copy this variable and rename it to prior year-to-date. And the only thing I need to change now is prior year. That's we're going to go a year back. So I'm going to do my statement year -1. And that will give us our prior year-to-date number. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is create a variance column where I select, where I calculate my year-to-date revenue minus my prior year-to-date revenue. Copy this variable, and then minus my prior year-to-date revenue. Oh, typo. Oh, without the rev. And that will give us our variance. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a current month calculation. And we're going to start off by dragging in our revenue, where revenue year equals the year we've entered in our prompt, because that's our current year, and then revenue month is equal to the month we've entered in our prompt. That's V statement month. Click on OK, and we're going to convert it to a variable. This is called current month rev, and give the header a name, current month rev, Next thing we're going to do is create the prior month. I can simply copy most of the current month, most of the code in the current month, prior month rev, and the only thing we're going to do is now we want to go 1 month back, so we're going to do where the statement month is -1. Okay. Drag in the prior month column, and now we're going to create a variance one for this one as well. So we're going to do current month rev minus prior month rev. Okay, and the last thing I need to do is give the header a name. Okay, so this is how you create comparatives manually in Business Objects Web Intelligence. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for my next tutorial.